Good morning and best wishes on auspicious occasion of Diwali to all of you. So there is our patient suffering from some disturbing features like coal intolerance, glucose intolerance, dyslipidemia. This 30 years old man, paramedic, was overtly concerned about weakness, sluggishness, weight gain despite loss of appetite, a moderate weight gain, moderate hypertension, and swelling, and all types of diagnosis in his mind. And he was very much worried. But the family physician, his friend, very correctly, weight gain with loss of appetite, observed this finding and requested thyroid function test from biochemistry lab. And here were the results, which were really diagnostic to say T3, T4 level, they were both decreased, and TSH level as expected was increased because of loss of or decrease in the feedback inhibition of T3, T4 on the hypothalamus and pituitary. Glucose level, so this established the diagnosis hypothyroidism. Glucose level, we'll discuss more about it. Hypercholesterolemia, LDL level was higher, 170 compared to normal value, which actually at this age should be less than 700. So we'll discuss now rest of the lectures on the basis on 2 points. Number one, we'll try to see whether rest of the findings also can be hypercholesterolemia, glucose intolerance, can be explained on the basis of this diagnosis, and whether we can correlate the clinical findings with the above diagnosis. So cholesterol, as you all know, converted to 7-hydroxycholesterol, जो ultimately which makes bile salts, bile acids, etc. And the enzyme catalyzing the first reaction is 7-alpha hydroxylase, and this enzyme is stimulated by the thyroid hormones. So the stimulatory signal is gone or becomes less in hypothyroidism. As a result, conversion of cholesterol to 7-hydroxycholesterol also decreases, ultimately resulting in increased serum cholesterol levels, hypercholesterolemia. Why LDL elevation? LDL, as you all know, it is generated from VLDL by action of this enzyme lipoprotein lipase, and LDL ultimately is taken up by various tissue, adrenal, ovaries, kidneys, lungs, and liver. And uptake is mediated by LDL receptors. Now, if supposing there is some defect in the LDL receptors, the result will be obvious, increase in the LDL activity. And this is what happens in hypothyroidism, because LDL receptors ka expression on the cells, on the surface of the cells, particularly in the liver, is facilitated by T3 and T4. So अगर T3, T4 कम हो जाएंगे, this expression will be decreased LDL uptake, and therefore increase in the LDL concentration in the circulation. Now, two observation, 70% of circulating total cholesterol resides in LDL. So LDL का increase का मतलब total cholesterol भी increase हो जाएगा. And so elevation of TC is caused by increased LDL. 90% of LDL uptake is through LDL receptors, where T3 and T4 play important roles. Then T3, T4, they affect other enzymes of lipoprotein metabolism also, like cholesterol ester transpoprotein, hepatic lipase, lipoprotein lipase. So beyond the scope of this lecture, you can see it as a part of your self-directed learning, the postgraduates. Now, glucose intolerance, we had seen earlier 117, 148. Fasting, which should be less than 112, and the PP, post-glucose load, which should be less than 140, both are elevated. So glucose intolerance hai. But why? Because insulin release is suboptimal, because T3, T4 are required for optimum insulin secretion. And secondly, insulin is released from beta cells of pancreas, and a number of stimuli promote insulin release. Now, T3 and T4, they have got facilitatory effect. They increase sensitivity of beta cell to these stimulatory signal. And in very severe cases, that type of diabetes can also result, but beyond scope of our lecture. Now, last part of the lecture, can we correlate the clinical findings with the above diagnosis? The patient overtly concerned, very much worried. He was weakness, sluggishness, not able to perform even normal muscular activities, because T3, T4, they have got profound effect on the muscle cell, increase glucose uptake, stimulate protein synthesis, thereby increasing muscle mass, increase glycolysis and probably glycogenolysis also. So muscle को fuel production, muscle mass increase करने में thyroid hormones का role है. And so less thyroxine, less T3, T4, obviously, weakness will be there. Weight gain accounted by fall in BMR, cold intolerance. This is because T3, T4 have got calorigenic effect. In the homeothermic organism, heat must be generated. So this is because of uncoupling effect, and I will be discussing these two for the benefit of postgraduates and the inquisitive undergraduates also. Swelling का आपको पता ही है because of subcutaneous edema, that is myxedema. What about cretinism in children? And that's a very serious condition. Mental ability, disabilities, etc. occur. So for the benefit of for the postgraduates and inquisitive students of MBBS, weight gain and cold intolerance, and some other points I will be talking now. Otherwise, the lecture finishes. Calorigenic effect. Only 25% of the energy inherent in the foodstuff is converted to ATP. Rest is dissipated as heat. And T3, T4 play a major role here because they are physiological uncouplers. As you know, electron transport chain, oxidation, tightly coupled with ATP synthesis, that is phosphorylation. T3 and T4 uncouple these two processes, resulting in heat generation. This is calorigenic effect, or that may be mediated via thermogenin. That's a complex mechanism. T3, T4 norepinephrine को करेंगे, norepinephrine, thermogenin, forget about it at the moment. Remember, it's a physiological uncoupler, so heat generation में part play करता है. So if T3, T4 less is the calorigenic effect, less heat production, so therefore cold intolerance will be there. This patient insisted upon keeping the windows closed, although there was no कोई इतनी ठंड नहीं थी. Why? Why he insisted upon switching off the fans? Because cold intolerance, and you know the reason. Weight gain despite less food intake, effect of BMR on BMR. T3 and T4, they are known to increase the basal metabolic rate. आपको, supposing a person 2700 kilocalories, a young student like you, 1650 to 1700 is encountered by BMR. और BMR का भी 25% और मोर is accounted by pump activity सोडियम पोटेशियम ATPase। तो अगर सोडियम पोटेशियम ATPase की एक्टिविटी कम हो जाए, BMR डाउन हो जाएगा। एंड हियर कम्स रोल ऑफ T3 and T4। T3 and T4 they stimulate activity of the sodium potassium pump। तो अगर कम होगा हाइपोथायरॉयडिज्म में, द एक्टिविटी विल फॉल, रिजल्टिंग इन फॉल इन द BMR। सो लास्ट आई विल लीव सम गैप्स फॉर STL। आज हमने जो केस डिस्कस किया दैट इज प्राइमरी हाइपोथायरॉयडिज्म। व्हाट इज सेकेंडरी हाइपोथायरॉयडिज्म? प्राइमरी TSH कम है, सेकेंडरी के अंदर, or sorry, प्राइमरी में TSH we saw was high. In secondary, it is low because the defect resides either in hypothalamus, hypophyseal axis. And then one more thing, what is role of these two tests in establishing whether it is primary or secondary? So that's all. There is a clinical case on chapter number 40 of my book, Dinesh Puri, where you can find out more details about this case. So thank you so much. Thanks a lot and best wishes for Diwali.